I can't hear you. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Happy Wednesday. We're back here at the Humpty Dump. Do the Humpty Dump. Do the Humpty Dump.
Do the Humpty Dump.
Bump, do the Humpty Dump.
So big decision by the Fed. This is their third third interest rate cut this year. They've knocked down the target rate, I think, on the Fed funds to 150 to 175.
175 basis points?
Well, 150. The target rate on the Fed, I think, now is 1.5% to 1.75%. That's the Fed funds rate.
Really?
Yeah. They just.
So basically, there's 150 basis points between here and zero. That's where Alice in Wonderland really begins. If you don't consider the redefinition of the overnight repo market already a redefinition.
Well, the
reality.
repo market's telling us that money's tightening up,
and that's what gold and all this.
Well, gold got hammered on the news. Because maybe it was the last cut.
Yeah.
Then it rallied back, so it was down $7 or $8. It's now up $1.
Right.
So basically, it's
gold is saying we don't believe this is your last rate cut. There's plenty more to come where that came from.
Well,
there's only 150 basis points between here and zero, and that's where gold's going to take off to the moon.
Yeah.
To the moon, I say.
I just want to look at the S&P. The S&P.
S&P.
There's the S and poo, and then there's the S&P. The S and poo. What will you have?
The S&P.
Oh, I think I'll have the S and.
So that's like the S in number 1 and the S in number 2.
There you go. See?
Jesus.
I know.
We've descended to scatological humor already.
The Dow's up 70 points today.
The Dow.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at the cannabis stocks. That's what we want to talk about here.
How do you get rid of these fucking pop-ups? These pop-ups drive me out of my mind.
You know how you do that? Is you throw your computer out the window.
Jeez, look at this. Oh, I got rid of it. Okay.
I am looking at the 4 charts here. They're a little bit too large to all fit on there. Let's take them down a bit. Let's go full screen here. Oops, that's fine. Look at one of my pop-ups.
I got rid of it. I got rid of it.
Yeah, anyways,
S&P's up 5 points. 5. So we're at if we close here, all-time closing high.
And the cannabis stocks are all down. Large cap index down 0.99%. Small cap down 0.5%, CSE index down 1.49%, and the venture cannabis index down 1.02%. And what could be driving stocks lower today?
Well, the marijuana sector, because they're making money. They're making money.
Trulieve, 52 cents a share last quarter.
Okay, Trulieve.
Charlotte's Web, 2 cents a share last quarter.
There's a small subset.
A little coterie.
There's some winners.
There's some winners and some losers.
Lots of losers.
I think that our guest yesterday, the CBD Sciences, is making money.
Did you have a chat today with Dan the Man?
Charting Man Dan is going to be here in exactly 10-ish minutes.
Okay, and you'll probably talk about the marijuana sector.
Yes, we talk about nothing but.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
But before we talk to Dan, actually, not in 10 minutes, we'll put Dan on. Dan we're going to talk to at 40 minutes past the hour. Right now it's 4 minutes past the hour, so exactly at 36 minutes.
Just add a zero, so in zero time we'll...
Boy, your counting skills are through the roof.
I know.
Jim Payne is going to be here from dynaCERT.
Okay.
And we're going to talk.
That stock had a real run there last year, I think.
Run up?
Oh, huge.
Yeah. What's the symbol on dynaCERT? Let's just.
I think it's CERT, if I'm not mistaken.
CERT, like the candies. Like
I said, DYA. Yeah, that's close.
That's right. That's close. That sounded close enough to me. Anyways, so 51 cents. That's not a bad looking chart.
No.
Look at that. No. Look at that. Bumping and grinding its way to ever higher levels.
Okay, put up a 4-year chart.
How about a 5-year? I don't have a 4-year. There's a 5-year chart. So yeah, it went for a big tear back in April 2017. It was up over $1.
How did they do that?
How do they do that? More buyers than sellers?
Well, it's coming back a bit.
Then more sellers than buyers. It's the way the market works. It's the way of the world. It's the way it's going to be. Symmetry, it's the way things going to be. Anyways, so what else happened in the news today? Namaste reported Q3 revenue of $3.8 million. Womp womp. Gross margin was 26%, but net loss for the quarter was $14.7 million or 5 cents a share. When your full revenue number is $3.8 million and you manage to lose $14.7 million, you should never be thought of as a company that trades in multiples of how much it lost.
Well, I mean, are they saying they needed to spend an extra after the revenue came in?
Oh, funny you should ask. I just happen to have the financial statements printed up right here. Let's go through these right now. So, cash and cash equivalents at the end of the quarter is 49.
They still have 49 million.
They got 49 million. So all the money that Sean raised for them, they still have. So 61 million in total assets. 94 million in assets, 34 million in liabilities, 7.2 million. So the balance sheet's not looking that bad.
Let's see what kind of goodwill they have. Oh, intangible assets, 9 million in intangibles, plus another 11 million in goodwill.
Wow.
Goodwill and other nothings.
And other nothings.
There's $20 million of goodwill and other nothings.
3.8 million in revenue, though. Let's not downplay that. That is down slightly from their revenue at August 31st, 2018 of 3.9 million.
Wow. Yeah, you don't like to see...
the revenue's going down. Revenue in 9 months ended August 31st, 12.3 million, 2019. August 31st, 2018, 13.6 million. So their company's doing just slightly shittier than it was at this time last year.
Jesus.
Oh, God. Can we get some good news in the cannabis space? Anyways, Hexo. Let's take a look at that chart.
Okay.
What do you got? Show me a Hexo chart. Yeah, stock selling off.
Hexo. That sounds like a magic trick. Hexo, like abracadabra.
I'm going to put a Hexo on you.
And then, and what happened to the money? It disappeared.
The money disappeared. Well, the good thing is they're putting the money back in a new debenture.
Yeah. Hexo.
Enter.
Hexo. Okay, here we go. Stocks at...
Oh, man.
2.25?
Oh, what happened? Something bumped its head in the night.
Holy... Oh, that's U.S. That's got to be you. Yeah, that's U.S. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
That.
So it's 3 and change.
Just let me just...
No, it'll be just under 3.
Hexo stock. Hexo Corp on the... There we go. We got it. Survey says 303.
303, just over 3. Okay. So the market has not reacted well to the last financials. There's not a lot of conviction on the part of investors that Hexo is going to squeak by on its original stash program to sell weed at $4.49 a gram. Even though the ratings from users on the internet so far have been positive as to the quality of the product, we know it's around 15 milligrams, 15 milligrams THC. Whoa, per gram. I can't see straight anymore. Yeah. So,
well,
you know what? I think that, where's the bottom on all this?
Well, whenever there's been I'm gonna categorize what we went through as a bubble.
Bubble.
Okay. Bubbles.
Bubble and trouble.
Bubbles. Look, they get.
They come. They go.
They go so much higher than they should have in the first place, and now they're in retreat.
So I guess the best definition of a bubble in the context of capital markets is an asset class that inflates and deflates in value rapidly over a time frame.
Well, if it doesn't deflate, then maybe it wasn't a bubble.
Well, maybe the bubble just hasn't burst yet.
Well, but I'm saying if it's been up for a long time.
As our friends at Zero Hedge like to say, on a long enough timeline, the rate of survival for everyone goes to 0.
Yeah, that's right.
So the bubble, everything's a bubble.
Well, they asked the famous economist who's from Dutton, Ontario, which is near London.
Dutton?
Yeah.
Not Sutton.
He was with President Kennedy
Yes.
back in the day, and he was 6'6". He was a very tall gentleman and brilliant guy, and he was like, I'll find his name, but they said, well, what is your view on interest rates in the long run? He says, well, I expect this to happen over the next, 52 weeks. He says, no, we mean the real long run. He says, in the real long run, it doesn't matter because you're going to be dead. That's what he said.
That sounds a bit pessimistic to me.
Well, it sounds, but also realistic.
Well, not if you're an optimist, and an unreasonable one at that, who thinks they're going to live forever.
Right.
By buying loud and ridiculous jackets at every possible opportunity.
Right.
And thereby earn a sympathetic nod from the universe to live forever.
Gold, which was down $8, is up now $5. So gold is saying there's some problems here. Like the Fed may be saying this is our last whatever, but if gold continues to move, gets back over 1,500,
Katie barred the door for gold.
Well, S&P futures are up those six points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any gold investments, you or I? I don't have any. I sold my last little bits of gold to execute on a real estate transaction.
On a real
estate transaction. Though I wouldn't call it much of an estate at this point, which is why it was so cheap. But it can be. What it can be, I can see in the mind of me. Anyways.
Yeah, I think what we got to do is to make some. I think we got to align ourselves with all the junior gold companies that have great properties. All of them.
Oh, all the ones with great properties.
Well, they all do.
If you talk to the CEO, it's a great property. With great potential.
Yeah. So why wouldn't we do that?
What do you mean? I don't think I want to align myself
on all these.
No. Those days are over, Edward.
No more options?
No more options. You're a media guy now. Can't be on both sides.
Okay.
We're changing the rules here.
Changing the rules?
Yeah. In fact, by January 1st, 2020, we are not going to accept any advertising, any sponsorship on Midas Letter. We will be assisting companies in financial communications, but not at Midas Letter. We'll be doing it on some other domains, obscure, unknown, big-ass marketing programs to help you achieve your wildest dreams. Anyways, but won't be on Midas Letter. Why? Why you want to know? Because we're going to keep it clean here. We're going to stay uninterested, unbiased, except we're going to invest in those companies and disclose it, of course, because that's what we do. I was thinking that as a guest we should invite the OSC and have them on the show, because I'd like to ask, wouldn't you love to ask the OSC guy who could give you the definitive answer on what you can and can't do, an answer right in front of you?
I don't look at this world as a black and white world. I think it's just a world full of variations on a theme. Like, because
I'm pretty sure the regulators don't like your attitude.
I know, and that's their job to turn it into black and white. But it's never that clear, is it?
Well, it's not if you don't talk to the horse's mouth. If you don't get it from the horse's mouth, then there's no, unless you're going to stay up to date and read every bulletin change and update on the whole national instrument and the Securities Act of British Columbia, Ontario, Alberta. This is the problem. We don't have a national regulator.
I know. That comes up quite often, doesn't it?
Right. But the provincial regulators are arguably incentivized to not support the idea of a national regulator.
Because they would lose their job.
Well, you only need one of each.
They'd have to move. Nobody likes moving.
We'd need one of each roles instead of 10 of each roles. So I can see that, but I want to start to talk to the regulators and see if we can't get them on the show and say, hey, what is the deal with this? When an insider raises money and tries to get a fee from it, how does that work? That's what I'd like to know. Anyways, we're going to try that. If you have that interest, send us an email. You've noticed that the comments have been cut off in the live feed. Why we did that is because
we don't want people too busy commentating. We want them.
Yeah, we're the commentators. No, we did that because you can still leave comments after the fact, and people have been doing so on the on-demand site of YouTube. And so if you would like to comment with us, please do so there. You can also send us email at midasletter@midasletter.com. So there's the question of the day. If you would like us to talk to the regulators or try to get them on the show, we don't know if they'll come, then send us an email and let us know. And send us your questions for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so now dynaCERT. What do you know about dynaCERT? What do you know about dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs? I know a little bit about dinosaurs.
What do you know about hydrogen-powered fuel?
Do you know they say all birds come from dinosaurs?
All really?
Yeah. Yeah. The ones with the little flippers would run and they'd stick their hands out, and I watched this. I've seen this with my own eyes. Okay, and then they start to they get a little loft and then they just kept doing it, and before you know it, they were birds. Only took them 100 million years.
So if we run around fast enough with our arms out, we'll be able to fly.
Well, we'll develop appendages called wings.
Wings. Nice. I like the sound of that.
Wings across America. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Here is Jim Payne from dynaCERT to tell us what dynaCERT is and all about.
Welcome back. My guest today is Jim Payne, President and CEO of dynaCERT. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Mark.
Let's get started. There's been a lot of exciting news happening with your business, but for those who don't know, can you start with just a brief introduction, letting us know a little bit about your company?
Absolutely. I mean, we like to say we're a Canadian company with a global solution to reduce pollution. Our technology is...
Say that once more.
I said we are a Canadian company with a global solution to reduce pollution.
I like that. You trademarked it?
We have not trademarked it, but we certainly coined it and put it on our website.
Great.
What we do is we have a technology that we've spent 15 years developing and perfecting. It is a very unique electrolysis system that goes on a diesel engine. I mean, our initial target to market was transport trucks. Now we've moved from that. We've gone down to reefers and refrigerated containers. Now we're moved into shipping, rail, power generation, and we've just this year moved into the mining industry also with this. But our technology, what it is, it's a very unique electrolysis system that takes distilled water and produces pure hydrogen and pure oxygen. We feed it to the intake of a diesel engine as a catalyst. So as a catalyst, what it really does is it enhances the burn. It helps you get the full use of your diesel. But by doing that, we've actually proven where we're reducing or improve the fuel economy at an average 10 to 15%. We've actually proven it as high as 30%, but 10 to 15% on an average. But more importantly, we reduce the pollution or reduce the emissions very significantly. And you look at the pollutants, in the emissions, we reduce them all north of 50% clear across the board. We just had this thing tested and verified in the last year in Germany through TÜV North and TÜV South, where we just got the homologation, and so we are now, we've now gone global with this. We're just now in Europe, but they proved our technology reduced the NOx, which is the most deadly gas produced by diesel engine. We reduced the NOx by 88%, right at the combustion.
So before your solution, diesel was extremely dangerous, and now not so much?
Well, we've certainly made diesel look a lot better. Now they do have, all kinds of aftermarket treatments, but it's all filtration systems. So the engine was producing the pollution, and then through different, like DEF is the diesel exhaust fluid for reducing NOx. You got the DPF, which is the diesel particulate filters to reduce the particulate matter, stuff like that. They have all these things that are collecting this, but then it all ends up back in the landfills or right back in the environment at some point anyway.
Okay. What investors, of course, want to know is what's happening now that they should keep an eye on. I know, obviously, global warming. How is that helping you?
Well, that is certainly helping us very significantly, and I hate to say it, but Europe is certainly much more focused in this, and this is where this has now really caught fire in Europe. Actually, our global VP of Global Sales is over there right now in several meetings with government not over there, but we just announced last week, a deal with literally one of the largest logistic companies in all of Europe. They're in 5 major countries, or countries all across Europe, and they flew here. They had seen our technology, flew here. They wanted to meet with us. They just signed a deal. They just gave us a purchase order for the first 1,000 units last week, and that's just the start.
And we were talking a little bit earlier. Can you talk a little bit about your price points for these units and what does installation look like?
Yeah, so our unit, say for a transport truck, it mounts on the back of a cab of the truck. It is about the size of a carry-on suitcase.
Okay.
It's got all the components, everything built into it.
So that's the brain?
That is the entire unit.
Okay.
And within it, it has the brain, which is our smart ECU. It's about the size of a cell phone. It's actually much like a smartphone. It is so our unit is fully computerized. It interfaces with the computer on an engine, takes information from that to determine the proper flow rates to optimize the burn. You can understand, we're not a fuel. We are a catalyst. Like, we just produce trace amounts of hydrogen and oxygen to enhance the burn. And it's interesting, you go back 50 years, there's white papers, engineered white papers going back 50 years, proving the fact that trace amounts of hydrogen and oxygen to an internal combustion engine enhances the burn. The problem is there's that sweet spot, and if you got to have the right mixture, and if you're not getting the right mixture, you're not getting the results.
So these units are obviously doing a lot to make the environment more. What's the word? It's a friendly solution to
Absolutely.
A big problem.
We're certainly cleaning the greenhouse gases very significantly.
Okay. Other opportunities. You're doing some work, you were telling me a little earlier, in Mexico as well. That's a growing market for you?
Mexico is a huge market for us. We've just announced a month or so ago, we signed an MOU with actually the largest union in Mexico. They've committed for 1 million units, but they gave us the initial purchase order. They're committed that the first 10,000 units are coming from our plant here in Ontario. During that time, we are now negotiating with them to set up an assembly plant in Mexico.
Okay, that's obviously great to hear. What about revenues? What are your revenues right now?
Well, I mean, reality is we've just in the last year gone into sales. Certainly our next quarter, you're going to see some significant sales. I expect that the sales are going to really grow over the next year. We have spent $60 million to get where we're at today. I mean, this has not been an easy feat. It has taken 15 years and $60 million to get here, but we have perfected the product. We have then gone globally to have this thing certified and verified and tested.
And the European opportunity, is that you were recently certified, so prior to that you didn't have access to that market?
That's correct. So we initiated things there 2 years ago. When we went through 24 months of testing over there with TUV North and TUV South to get what's called homologation. This is through ABE and KBA. Just probably 6 weeks ago, we announced that we got the certification for our product, so now we can market it throughout Europe. So we now have an office in Europe, a warehouse in Europe, and we're just really opening up that market now.
Great. And what does each region have its own certification you need to get around, for example, or is Europe kind of unique in that way?
Europe is very unique in that way. We are already now so we're in North America, we're in India. Now, we did get certified in India through
India
ICAT.
Must be a big opportunity.
India is going to be a huge opportunity. We sort of got launched there a year ago, and then the political unstableness while they were going through their elections happened, and it slowed things right down. But so now we are just aggressively going back after that market. But yeah, it's a huge market, and they've got a huge problem.
And what about Asia comes to mind, obviously. Have you done any work there, or what does that look like?
We have not. We know that eventually we will. This is my belief, and certainly the belief of our board of directors, that you look at the Asian market, especially you look at the China market and stuff like that. We want to make sure that we are so strong here first, and we want to make sure that our branding is so strong in that, because we want to make sure once we get there, this thing is not going to be stolen or reverse engineered. Yeah,
that is the fear of going to Asia first. So carbon emission technology, what does the competitive landscape look like?
Well, I mean, you look at the specific technology we've got. There's a few companies out there that are doing this. There's been several companies trying to do this for several years. Like I said, it's taken us 15 years to perfect this. I would say that we are significantly ahead of the crowd, and it is the computerization of our unit. Electrolysis is not rocket science, although our electrolysis unit,
For some people, I think it does seem like rocket science.
Well, yeah. The U.S. Department of Energy tested our unit and said we've got the holy grail. They said that we found out how to produce more gas on less power than anything they've ever seen. But it really is a computerization. It's the interfacing with the engine, because you've got to have that right flow rate. And if you don't have that right flow rate, it's nothing.
So in your world, you look at diesel engines everywhere and say, if we could only just put one of our units on every diesel engine, we could, retire on a beach somewhere.
Right now, there's over 1 billion diesel engines in the world.
So what does the market opportunity look like? How many of those are already using a technology like this, and where do you see it going?
There is none using technology like this right now. No, I shouldn't say that. I mean, we have several. Well, right now we're just under 1,000 units out there in the market.
Okay. So this
like
is
I said, we've
still early stages.
This is very early stages.
Well,
we wanted to make sure that the product was right. We wanted to make sure it was perfected. We wanted to make sure that it was certified and tested worldwide. That's one thing I can honestly say. There's not a competitor who's had the balls to do that.
Well, appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today, but looking forward to having you back on the show and hearing further updates. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. How about that dynaCERT thing, hey? How about that dynaCERT?
There's got to be a lot of things that you can do. I mean, like if you think about technology where it was 30 years ago, think about where it is today.
30 years ago?
Yeah.
30 years ago. Isn't it more or less where it is today?
Technology?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we've sent rockets to the moon. We had color TV. Nothing's really changed since then.
Look at how much energy the United States is pulling because they've learned how to frack properly, as an example. So the world's changing. There's a big build in oil inventories today.
Big build.
Big build. They're looking for
I
small
saw
increase.
a headline in WSJ saying it was the world is going to be awash in oil in 2020. Yeah. What's the price of oil doing? Let's take a look at that chart. I mean, so this is it. I think the turnover in the conviction, how people are convinced that we're now officially going to an electric world away from fossil fuels is starting to set in. And I think the Saudi Aramco delay in the IPO is probably symptomatic of that.
Well, they said now they're going to try and do it now. I think they said it yesterday.
Yeah?
They're going to try and put this thing to bed here. Let's see. Commodities. Okay, let's take a look. Here we go. So, and you know what's interesting? With this big build in inventories, oil is only down 60 cents. So we may be getting ready for a little turn.
Right.
Okay, so there's the chart. Sorry, someone's been trying to call me.
Here, let's do this.
Yeah, okay, how about that? Good idea. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is a commodity chart. Okay.
What the hell are you on there?
Okay, forget it. What am I on? You don't want to. You do not want to know.
You're watching TV over there.
What's going on? Okay, just a minute. I need to know. James, I don't have a chart that's on the system. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I just got to find it.
Okay, let's take a look at...
Let's take a look at something else.
Let's take a look at crude oil futures on the NYMEX exchange.
Can we do that?
Oh, yeah.
Is that legal?
That's what we're going to do here. What the hell is going on with this thing? Well, we could have. Nope. Crude oil futures exchange traded. No, that's not it. What the?
Well, crude oil's $55 a barrel. Okay, yes. And it's moved up a little bit recently. No big deal.
Okay, here we go. 55.54 on the front month. Yes, here we are. All right. So yeah. It's kind of trending to the downside.
Yeah, grinding
lower. Since the Fed announcement, running up to the Fed announcement, it had trended higher to just under 55.20, and then the sell-off has started now that the rates have been cut again.
Yeah.
So draw the line for me, if you could, Ed, between the relationship between why do oil rates fall when the Fed cuts its rate by 25 basis points?
Well, look, they're cutting because they perceive a slowdown. Well, if it's slowing down,
Less fuel consumption.
how could on the other hand, if the price drops, the people buy more because, hey, it's on sale. It doesn't really work like that.
Unless supplies are growing at a rate faster than the takedowns happening.
And like they're pumping more oil in the United States than they've ever pumped.
Right. So oil is a sell. That really leaves the Alberta out in the cold, doesn't it, for the winter? Alberta's out in the cold for the winter. I'm not laughing about it,
And that's not Alberta VO5,
Now
is
I'm
it?
afraid of that Albertans everywhere will say he's laughing about us being frozen out of the economy. I'm not.
No.
I'm outraged.
Yeah, look, it's impossible to please all the people all the time.
Or any of the people some of the time, really. And this is the great thing about our society. Social media is actually making us less social.
I think you're right.
Because it's causing us to polarize and isolate ourselves in pods of like-minded individuals. So it's like, now I can see that, oh, you're this type of religion, this is where you live, this is the sports you're into, and this is the music you like. You're an idiot, fuck you, because this is the sports I like, this is the music I like, this is the religion I'm into. So you get these pods of isolated groups who are not actually socializing. They're the opposite. They're isolated.
They're trying to make themselves look special or look unique.
Well, they're trying to make themselves
texting is an example. Texting, email, it's all black and white. There's no interpretation of atmosphere, of what's the temperature.
Right. What's the look in your eye when you say, hey, what did you think of that little number, honey?
Like, for instance, I asked the gentleman the other day, do you do the texting? And he sort of...
Do the texting. That sounds like a dance.
Do the texting.
Do the texting.
Wait a minute, be like
do
this.
The rock lobster.
I've heard of lobster. I heard of lobster rap, and then there's lobster trap. Get it? Lobster trap.
Get it? What? That's you passing that off as a joke. I know I didn't get it because I didn't really... Anyways,
okay.
Let's get back to reality here. Let's come back to the non-alternative reality, the world of financial markets.
Are cannabis stocks not performing today? They're not, are they?
Cannabis stocks are not performing. What's the S&P doing?
We should get rocking chairs.
I've
got one.
Yeah, what's the S&P doing right now?
Okay. Okay. It's looks like it's up about 5 or 6, 7 points here. I don't know if this is delayed. It's 3046. That's it hit a new high today of 3051.
So cutting rates is good for the big corporate America because they can borrow money for cheap, buy back their stock, and drive the price higher.
You know, there's been so much of that people forget that a lot of the reasons why these multiples are crazy. You know, instead of taking big salaries, they say, don't give me a salary, just give us some money.
Yeah.
We'll use that money to drive up our stock, and our stock options are worth more money.
That's why I call the S&P the great chart of the subsidization of American industry through the proliferation of the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's why I think that I saw an article, where was it this morning, that China was saying that they're on the back foot in the global economic trade war because of the prevalence of the U.S. dollar in the economic trade. Do you think there was a point at some stage?
I mean, because it's the reserve currency?
Yeah. So that back in 1948 or something, some smart guy said, military action's not where it's at. We got to have that to collect our debts. But really, if you want to dominate the world, just flood it with our money.
Yeah. They say that, I had a strong point here, but...
We'll come back right after these messages. We don't have any commercials.
No, you were talking about, they say, if your country is fortunate enough to have the reserve currency like the United States does,
yes,
that just about everything is 10 to 20% cheaper by virtue of that status.
Really?
Yeah, so like if let's say the reserve currency went to China, for instance, then they would enjoy that little discount.
Right.
And I understand why that would be. And listen, that's the last thing the United States wants, is to lose their status in the world as reserve currency. Probably won't happen in our time, but I'm sure it's going to happen. I
don't know. I think the major downward revision in population globally will occur far before that, destroy the entire global economy, and we'll be back to tribal warfare with guns and knives before you know it.
Well, at least with bows and arrows, you had a fighting chance, right?
How's that? Well, how is a bow and arrow better than a gun and a knife?
Not better. It's probably a lot easier to stay alive if the bow and arrow's coming after you.
I don't know. You ever had an arrow to the forehead?
just 3 times.
Anyways, enough of our intelligent banter. Okay. Here's a guy who really knows his stuff. Dan McDermott from thechartguys.com is going to take a look with me at the cannabis space.
Pay attention.
Dan McDermott from thechartguys.com is back. Dan, welcome.
Thanks, James. Glad to be back.
You bet, Dan. It's looking awfully quiet out there in the retail sector in cannabis. What's your take?
Definitely, we had a 2-week bounce that was a nice little relief bounce, but as it was playing out, in my videos, I was pointing out, I'm not seeing the bulls proving anything to me. I'm not seeing big bull volume. It just looks like the bears are calling it quits temporarily. So we saw that 2-week bounce and some relief, and then we saw the bears to start this week, both Monday and yesterday, very convincingly coming back out again. They're showing back up and they're closing at the low of the day, which is showing us bear momentum still in control. And this is happening while the S&P 500 is at all-time highs. So people are getting frustrated and they're sick of the downtrend. And it's been a solid 6 months at this point, 5-6 months of pullback. And people are sick of it, and their frustrations are showing, whether it's in comments or just in their general viewpoint of investing based on fundamentals. And the thing that I say to them is this isn't your granddaddy's stock market in terms of the bots and the algos and the technicals having way more impact in the short-term action. And in my opinion, as you know, being a technical analyst, I feel that is more important than the fundamentals as far as positioning ourselves and trying to profit playing this game.
So as a technical sort of person, do you find that this is a good time to look for the companies that buck the trend when the bears are in control and sort of consider those more closely in terms of where you might get a better experience?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to look at it. There are some names that are standing out as far as their strength is concerned. And just on the USMJ side, for me, that's TRUL. And TRUL isn't one of my favorite companies as far as due diligence for the fundamentals. And, it's pretty situated in Florida. And there was some concerns about maybe the CEO's husband going on trial and all that. But the weekly chart is in an uptrend, and you cannot find that in any other U.S. marijuana stock. So that, to me, puts it at the top of the list for the most bullish name just based on technicals alone. So it's worth, shopping around and having a rough game plan as far as which names you're going to be looking at. But again, this happened in 2017 as well, where we were very patient and Canopy was in a downtrend, a weekly downtrend. And as soon as it changed its weekly trend, that was the go signal. And that was the very clear shift in sentiment. So again, I need weekly trend changes to be a believer in the sector again. A lot of people say that I have a bearish bias now. And absolutely, you're darn right I have a bearish bias. And as long as we're in a downtrend, my bias will be bearish. And when we see a weekly trend change, my bias will be bullish.
So at this point, the monthly, the weekly, the daily are all bearish.
Yeah, I mean, we had a nice bounce. It's a 2-week bounce. We knew we were just looking for weekly lower highs to form on that bounce. What we would have to see to end this year is to hold our recent lows and then see continuation and a solid follow through. And honestly, even that's not going to change the weekly trend at this point. We have to see clear consolidation. I'll point it out in the charts in just a moment what we would need to see, but it's definitely not worth giving up on the sector. I'm certainly not suggesting that. It's just always about patience. And some people have run out of their patience and other people have plenty of patience left. And I think patience is determined by how much cash you still have available to implement in this sector when momentum does shift.
Right. Okay. So then at what point does a technical guy like you, I'm looking at the volumes diminishing continuously as we go through this bear market. At what time does the entire sector become of no interest because the interest is dried up to the upside or the downside?
The moment that happens is when the big volume spike will come. And that's the way it goes. When things get as quiet as possible, and the biggest example is the cryptocurrency space, there's been 2 times now where our chat room has gotten really quiet and I've been the only one posting. And when it gets that quiet, it's like it's the, quiet, almost too quiet kind of scenario, because then the big, Bitcoin ran 40% in one day, 2 days after. The chat room was the most quiet it's been in months. So that's something to look for in terms of a contrarian mindset. But you're absolutely right on the volume. I mean, today, I headed into today saying, all right, we're looking for some hourly oversold bounces. I want to see weakness first thing. I'm going to be looking to make entries. And honestly, the volume just turned me off this morning. I said, I don't really feel like trading in this low volume environment. It's going to be more difficult. We've got the bounces playing out right now, a little 2 to 3% bounce, but I didn't participate because the volume there wasn't enough for me to be interested.
Sure. All right, great. Well, let's take a look at some of those charts and back up what you're saying with some technical analysis, as it were.
So we're going to look at CGC here, and first we'll talk about time frames. So this is the 2-week bounce as seen on the hourly chart. And if you're only looking at the hourly chart, this looks like a great strong uptrend. Bulls are in full control. The sector's back. And it's important to look at the longer term time frames because that is the scaffolding of what the setup is. And if you look at the weekly time frame for CGC, we knew that entire bounce from the low of 1789 just to be looking for a weekly lower high. Why could we make that assumption? Number one, we're in a downtrend of weekly lower highs and lower lows. And number two, the last time we topped on a weekly bounce was 2889. So we can say that anything under 2889 is a weekly lower high. And we certainly were not expecting to see a 50% plus bounce. So here we are slowing down. Is this weekly bounce over? I won't say it is just yet, but even if the bulls form a daily higher low with where we stand right now, and then shoot right back up and break our top of 2248, that's great. The bounce is still underway, but it's not going to change the fact that we are just looking for a weekly lower high. What I need to see to be a bull in this sector is to top out, setting a weekly lower high, hold our low on a clear period of consolidation, and then see continuation. That is a textbook trend change, which would be a clear sign of a sentiment shift in the sector. Let's look back historically. So CGC 2017, we had a 4-month pullback of over 50%, and that was brutal back in the day. So we ended up pulling back 52%. What signaled the bottom? Well, first we had a bullish reversal candlestick and a bounce. During this bounce, we would just be saying we're only looking for a weekly lower high. The bulls are not proving much yet. We then traded sideways, volume, increasing bull volume and continuation. That would have our attention saying, okay, the bulls are back in the sector. Let's try and get an entry. And it looks like that was the case for a lot of people that entered on this weekly higher low. This is our clear period of consolidation. I do not consider this little sideways move to be a weekly higher low. I consider this a weekly higher low at 664. Increasing bull volume again. As soon as you break 763, that is the clear weekly trend change as far as I'm concerned. And then of course from there, it was all bulls on all increasing bull volume. Another thing to look at is on the weekly time frame for CGC, since we have topped out in pretty much all of 2019. Let's see where the bull moves occurred. Every single bull move that we have seen has been on increasing bull volume. So the significant bull moves, 1 week to the next, increasing bull volume here, increasing bull volume here, increasing bull volume here. And what does this 2-week bounce look like? Decreasing volume. So again, we need increasing bull volume to prove to us that number one, bulls are going long, and number two, those bulls going long are convincing shorts to cover their positions. We don't have that at this point, and it's entirely possible we see another leg down. I want the sector to go up. People say I have a bearish bias now. More and more people are saying that. I want the sector to go up. I make a lot more money when the MJ sector is bullish. But I'm going to be very patient until I see the signs telling me it's time to be looking bullish. And right now we just don't have those. If we're comparing this to other names as well, APHA. So we had a setup where APHA was positioned to potentially change its weekly trend, which would have put it as in the forefront as the strongest technical Canadian MJ play if they pulled that off. We had the high of the bounce. We had our higher low established, a base of support. And here, if we had seen continuation, that would have been a very clear weekly trend change and sentiment shift. Instead, bulls couldn't pull it off. We had the high of the bounce, established our base of support, tried continuation, and failed to lower lows. So that kept us from getting too bullish in the sector, and now we have another bounce on APHA and another weekly lower high looking to be set. So will we change this weekly trend back to the bulls at some point? Yes, absolutely. We will reach a point where investors and institutions see value and they will start buying, and then we'll see the bear case start to diminish as far as how much upside the bear, how many gains the bears can expect to see after pulling back so many months in a row. And then we'll see a weekly trend change. That could happen within the next 3 months. That might take another 6 months. I have no idea. But until I see that happen, I will keep a bearish bias because that is what the trend is dictating that I should be doing.
All right, Dan, fantastic as usual. Thanks very much. We'll come back to you next week. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. GE posted loss on restructuring, but it did better than expected.
On operations.
On operations.
Which is what people want to see. They don't really give a shit about your special adjustments and all this shit.
Right, because those are one-time charges.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Extraordinary items.
So they're up 10.4% right now.
Yeah, about $1, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, significant.
Yeah, but so to what extent is General Electric a bellwether for
Well,
the
it used to
general
be
economy?
the biggest company in the world back in the early 2000s, right? I remember GE. Where are you, GE? And then it was
GE, get Edward.
Get,
Jesus.
GE. It should be JE.
JE, right.
Yeah. Should I put up a chart?
Nah.
Okay.
They're not really in our wheelhouse. I don't really care about them.
No, but it's big company, and there used to be how goes General Electric. Well, that was General Motors, so anyway, never mind.
But GE is like one of the big bellwethers of the
It used to be the
broader
biggest
economy.
market cap in the world.
Okay. So now what is the combined effect, in your opinion, Ed, of the fact that Brexit has now been thrown into the morass of a general election in the UK, which is without any doubt at some level going to be a referendum on whether to leave at all, right?
Yeah.
So is it the case that the, what's your takeaway? What are the charts? What chart can you show me that demonstrates the sentiment as a result of this recent announcement about the election?
What can I show you?
Yeah, LSE, pound.
You want to look at the pound? Want to go pound salt?
No, I don't want to look at the pound, thank you. The pound is where you go to find a stray dog.
Yep. I knew you were going to say that. Okay.
How'd you know?
You know what I want to show you? I want to show British pound versus the US dollar. How about that?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
British pound. You know what? Oh, man. I wish I could review the... hold on a second. I know I'm on the wrong site.
All right. While you're fishing around over there, Ed, we're going to take a look at what the large cap companies are doing right now on the large cap index. And as you can see, the Canopy Growth Corp is off 1.7%, 26.46, still in that range bound 25 to 30. And as Dan said, still no resolution from the bulls, still no higher low or higher high on rising volume. ACB tacked on 5 cents today, though. Again, not really significant in the grand scheme of things. Kronos Group, 1092, meh. Cureleaf, 676, meh. I mean, really, no doubt everybody's getting frustrated with this sector, and no doubt, people are not really interested in talking about cannabis that much.
Pounds up today, a little bit, about 0.3. Anyway, now that you asked.
Wait, I thought we were done, but we're back.
Done.
Yeah.
So here's a chart of the pound. You want to see that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Show us the pound, Ed.
Like our
single pound or double pound? Quarter pounder? Okay, well, you're looking for that.
There it is, right here. There it is. There it is. Look.
What the hell kind of chart is that?
Yeah. What kind is it?
I don't know.
Are there currency charts on the other service?
Yeah, there's everything.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
Why didn't you tell me?
I'm wondering why you're on. Yeah.
I did?
Yeah. Jesus. Anyways, we're looking at the CSE companies now, and Oxley Cannabis is one. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to range this in terms of percentage loss and gains. Supreme Cannabis actually is up 9% on the announcement that John Fowler is stepping aside.
Right.
Which is curious. I mean, that seems to make it seem like the market interprets John's departure as a positive thing, which, well, we're going to have Nav Dhaliwal on the show here to talk about that at some point in the week ahead. Tomorrow, we have Rob Gronkowski here on the show. He's going to talk about his relationship with Abacus and the advent of CBD as a certified sports remedy by professional sports associations. That's tomorrow.
Can we assume that he's a user?
Well, that's why we're having him here. We're going to ask.
We're going to ask.
We're not going to make any assumptions.
So you think we'll get a little bit of following from the fans of the New England Patriots?
I have no idea. Planet 13 Holdings is added 6.15%, up 11 cents to $1.90. Origin House, up 4.65% to $4.95. Agriflora Organics, up a penny to 26 cents. Now, who are the big losers on the small cap index? Well, Zenabis. Look at Zenabis is auguring downward faster than you can say Jack the Bear, and you know, I'm concerned for some of these companies that have this momentum to the downside that doesn't show any sign of slowing.
Well, if the cash gets depleted and they want to raise money, who are they going to look straight in the eye and say, why is this money going to help this time?
Ghostbusters?
Yeah, it's
Canopy Rivers is down $1.64. Wow. These things are either really on sale and oversold, or the sector is falling apart.
Yeah.
Sector is falling apart.
I've got that chart up now. I have it up for sure.
Which, okay.
That's the pound. That's a 6-month chart of the British pound versus the U.S. dollar. Mm-hmm. And so if the British pound's up, this will move. So we've had, just going to do a little. There's the trend line broken to the upside, and here we are. We had a nice bottom here, and then a test and a.
So what is the date of that big reversal to the upside?
Here?
Yeah.
This was probably when Boris Johnson, I'm going to guess, middle of October.
Okay, without a guess, what does the chart say? What's the date on the bottom there? October 14th, is that what I see?
Well, middle October.
Okay.
Maybe October 10th, but I think, wasn't there something where he got something and it was a positive thing, and, you know.
Well, he did, yeah, well.
Hey, listen, it costs you, your US dollar in Britain is worth about 8 to 10% less than it was a couple months ago.
What about the Canadian dollar?
Well, let's take a look.
That was painful. Remember being there and
painful. It wasn't painful for me. you you notice I had really short hands on that one, and no, it's expensive, right? It's got to be one of the most expensive places in the world to go to have sushi at that restaurant we went to.
Yeah, it's not the cheapest, that's for sure. What do you make of all this impeachment momentum building behind Trump? Do you think he's actually at risk, or do you think the House control or the Republican control of the Congress is enough to let him squeak by?
This is...
Said how long as a piece of string question.
Yeah.
Depends where you cut it.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what do you think the economic outcome of that would be if Trump got impeached for our universe of cannabis stocks?
I think markets would, well, the cannabis stocks, maybe that's going to help the cannabis stocks because, the Republicans are more right than Democrats. The
Less
Dems,
pro-cannabis.
Yeah. On the other hand, the big markets could suffer if Trump got impeached. Because as far as, this president, whatever your view is, you can't disregard the fact that the stock market's at the highest it's ever been. And that's what they look at. And the Republicans...
I'd argue with you only in as much as I wouldn't ascribe that to a president because it's been on that trend since 2008 where we've had 3 presidents since then.
I know.
So, I'm sure he loves to take credit for that. But, I mean, again, that's a direct outcome of all the money printing in the world and the zero interest rate policy, which results more liquidity in the system, is none of these charts have any choice but to go up if they're the market where all the money is going.
Do you remember the night of the election in the U.S. and it would look like Trump was going to win, and there was a guy there. He's about 88 years old, and he's one of the great investors of Wall Street. And they were interviewing him, and when they officially came out that Trump had won, he said, "Excuse me, I got to go. I'm going to go put $1 billion in the market." Right on the spot.
Really? Who was that?
Well, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's world renowned. And there's only maybe a handful of guys that fit his description, but I can see him. I just don't know his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he was being interviewed by, Carl Quintanilla or one of those guys. Anyway.
Carl Quintanilla. Don't know him either.
I can't even say his name. Okay. So what do you think?
Spectrum Therapeutics and Tree of Knowledge announced a partnership to educate and support healthcare professionals. Spectrum being the medical division of Canopy Growth Corp. Have you noticed that the quality of the press releases coming out by the major cannabis companies is sort of in a less deteriorating in the level of excitement that they're generating? Like ho freaking hum, unless you're a support healthcare professional. I mean, really? Aurora Cannabis launches national safety campaign on edibles. I mean, some of these press releases, duh.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. So you look at the caliber of the press release, you look at the drying up volume in the sector, and you look at the financial performance, and what have you got is you got a 3-way converging line to the downside.
Yeah.
But so I suspect, do you remember when the .com era blew up?
I remember.
Everything went sideways. And then what emerged from the ashes but a second wave of .com companies? How long did it take after the original blow up for that second wave of .com companies to sort of put a reversal on technology stocks generally?
Well, I'll tell you, Amazon, if you look at Amazon, okay, the market peaked in March of 2000 for all intents and purposes. I'm pretty sure Amazon bottomed at around $7 a share. $7 a share about 3 years later. Maybe it could have been 2.5, could have been 3.5, because I was short. Remember I told you how the most ridiculous thing I've ever done, shorting Amazon, saying you can make a only went from 7 to 2,000.
You shorted it at the end of its
well, I was short thinking, this is going to zero.
Zero.
And then some jackass analyst in New York got up and said, you know what, this is a buy of a lifetime, folks. Buy all you can.
Who was the analyst who said that?
Can't remember, but I remember the stock was up $1.50 and I was short 2,000 shares thinking, oh, I'm fucked. You know what? Probably the greatest return you could have made without doing a thing. And then, anyway. So I'm green.
We have another global market, global cannabis market size prediction out by an entity called Global Market Insights, and this company is in Selbyville, Delaware. Have you heard of Global Market Insights?
I thought you were going to say, have you heard of Selbyville?
These guys are saying that the global marijuana market value is going to be $59 billion by 2025. That is so unexciting. That the whole global market for cannabis is going to be $60 billion. You're either bang on and there is no cannabis market to speak of, but relative to the potential size of the medical space, I think that's pretty conservative. Don't you? 59 billion by 2025. We're talking 5 years from now.
So if that's the world market, and you look at Canada's population, what's Canada's portion of that?
Canada's 5 billion.
Well, 5, but it's not 1/12 of the potential, is it?
No.
It's like a 100th, isn't it?
Right. Well, that's why I look at these long-term predictions, and I think, if I had the time and I had nothing better to do, I'd love to pore over the methodology to understand how that happened. But it's, come on, 59 billion. It's going to be worth way more than that if you incorporate the fact that these pharma companies are going to bring in these, start coming out with drugs based on 140 plus cannabinoids available. Anyways, that's not going to happen tomorrow. So enjoy the firm pickle that has been stuffed into your buttocks by the market in the cannabis space, and hold it there until tomorrow. We'll be back then.
Ogurki.
Polski ogórki.